We hear tales all the time of incredible feats and achievements, but when it comes to poker, there are some which are more surprising than others. Here are 5 amazing poker stories that you probably didn't know. Number 1. In 2010, 8-year-old Ashish Nanak from India made headlines across the web when he reportedly won $500,000 after playing in an online poker tournament. According to the boy's mother, she was working at a hotel as a cleaner, trying to support her family on her meager salary and whatever other jobs she could find to supplement their income. Ashish would accompany her to work and she would keep him occupied with cartoons on a computer that was meant for the staff. She soon noticed that Ashish was a natural on the computer and would browse and play games by himself. At the age of 6, the young man was exploring online poker sites and actually winning small amounts of money. Since the poker site paid out in dollars, the family could make modest improvements to the quality of their lives. Ashish found the most support in his uncle. He set up a PayPal account and poker account for the young player. Whether the uncle set up the account specifically for his young ward or whether he already had the account going and finally found a convenient way to reveal his hidden poker gaming, we will never know. He allegedly participated in online poker tournaments using his uncle's player account and was doing so when he won the $500,000. The poker room involved reportedly refused to pay out the tournament winnings due to Ashish being under the legal age to participate in online poker tournaments. The Nanak family had disputed the claims, saying that the poker room was aware of the real age of the boy and that employees even referred to him as the little poker wizard. After his massive win, the poker room, which had remained anonymous, blocked his player account and became embroiled in a legal battle, and the decision of the courts had remained unconfirmed. Number 2. One of the first things that comes to mind when thinking about professional football players is the enormous sums of money they make. However, unlike the rest of us, they aren't always free to spend the money wherever and however they choose. Not every team is as welcoming to their players taking up poker as Barcelona was with Neymar and Real Madrid was with Ronaldo. In 2016, Max Kruse, forward of the German Wolfsburg football club, learned this the hard way after he was fined 25,000 euros by the club for playing poker. It was a proverbial insult to injury because the football star actually left all of his 75,000 euro winnings in a taxi and had not been able to retrieve them. The football player grabbed a cab back to his hotel after striking fortunate at the tables during the WSOP Europe in Berlin and won a total of 75,000 euros, likely from cash games. He arrived at his destination safely, but he forgot about the bag of cash in the back of the cab. By the time he realized what had happened, the taxi and the money were long gone, and Max Kruse decided to call the police. It seemed like a reasonable decision at the time, but it ended up adding another 25,000 euros to his loss, making it a nice round 100,000 euros. The player was unable to get much help from the police, but by reporting the event, he made it a public problem. When Wolfsburg's sporting executive Klaus Allofs found out about the situation, he was not pleased. This type of activity, according to Allofs, was a blatant breach of Kruse's contract. Football players are public figures and their actions reflect on the entire club and the sport in general, thus they are held to great standards than the general public. Number 3. On February 1st, 2016, French online player Larry Queen 34 logged in for a game and got the shock of his life when he discovered his bankroll was an extra 1,546,522.16 euros higher than he expected. Winamax notified him that he was the lucky winner of a bonus lottery. Sadly for the French player, the lovely dream did not last long and quickly turned into a nightmare. He discovered that he could not log back into his account after Winamax had frozen it a week later. The poker room responded saying that the 7-figure bonus was actually an error on their part. It transpires that the money had been credited as a result of a member of the Winamax team clumsily typing in a part of the player's unique ID number 1546634 instead of the vastly inferior sum of 1.82 euros, which the player had actually won. Since the transfer, the player had lost 3,000 euros of his fortune on the site in 7 days, as well as withdrawing 9,000 euros in cash. When Winamax detected the issue, his account was frozen. Officials at Winamax offered him a more than reasonable 3,000 euro loss write-off in exchange for him returning the 9,000 euros he had withdrawn. As a gesture of apology on their part, they even offered to credit his account with a further 1,000 euros. The player, however, was not willing to give up the money as he dismissed the fact that this was a human mistake and was prepared to take them to court. No word had come out if he had taken the offer or not. Number 4. As you probably know, many poker rooms have bad beat jackpots that players can claim after losing with a very strong hand to an even stronger hand. In Hold'em, this usually means losing with a hand that's quads or better, although rules may vary. On July 7th, 2017, the bad beat jackpot at Red Rock Casino, one of the bigger off-strip casinos to offer a jackpot, had inched up to $120,000. On that fateful day, 83-year-old Avi Shamir made a straight flush, only to have the ultimate dream of being bested by a higher straight flush by Leonard Shredder. According to the bad beat jackpot rules, Shamir stood to win the biggest share, $48,000, while Shredder would be getting $30,000. Another $3,600 would be distributed among the other players seated in the game who were dealt into the hand, and $38,400 would be chopped up between more than 80 people who were playing in eligible games. They were shocked when they heard that they would be receiving no money after the casino reviewed the footage of the hand and saw the losing player, Avi Shamir, had turned over his hand before the showdown was announced. Casino rules stipulate that if players talk about their cards during the hand, the management has the right to refuse to pay out the jackpot. This rule is generally regarded to protect against forms of collusion that can influence action, whether intended or not, and breaking of this rule is usually subject to some sort of penalty or perhaps a warning in the case of cash games. This is consistent with Tournament Directors Association Rule number 68, which states, exposing cards with action pending may result in penalty but not a dead hand, which applies to tournament poker. The hand would still be live and the player could still win the pot, but there would be some kind of repercussion involved. However, everyone involved felt that the rule was misplaced here, as both players held straight flushes, so no matter what, it's extremely unlikely either of them wasn't going to get to showdown no matter what. Needless to say, the player who stood to win a jackpot share on that day were none too pleased with management's decision. Players responded by asking the Nevada Gaming Control Board to review the situation. The case got to its epilogue before the Nevada Gaming Control Board, which took the player's side in this matter, and Shamir eventually received his bad beat jackpot, albeit with a several months delay. There is no information as to what happened with the rest of the jackpot that was supposed to go to the winning player and other players present at the table at the time.
Also, I've noticed that 93% of you guys are still not subscribed to the channel, so if you're enjoying the video, a sub to the channel would be amazing.
Number 5. In one of the most insane prop bets the poker world had ever seen, two poker pros wagered $100,000 on whether or not one of them could live in complete isolation for 30 days. The bet came together in 2018 at the Bellagio Poker Room, where Rich Elati and Rory Young often played cash games. While killing time in between hands at the tables, Young enjoys engaging in a game of lot and things at the table. For those of you not familiar, the infamous gambling game involves different parties guessing what a third party would answer to a question with a numerical answer. It's not important what the real answer is, only how the person acting as the brain would respond. One of Young's go-to lot-on questions was, how long do you think you could last in a dark room with no human interaction? Young has heard all kinds of answers and believes most people often overestimate their abilities while answering. Responses are usually in the range of 20 days, but Young said Rich Elati surprised him with the answer of 30 days. Young asked him how much it would take, and Elati said his baseline number was at least $50,000 or maybe $100,000. Young kept his poker face and said he'd look into working something out. They talked a bit more, and within an hour, they had the prop bet ready to go. Each of them escorted $5,000 with somebody they both knew and trusted. Elati had 6 months to attempt the bet. If either of them decided not to proceed with the bet, the other took home the $10,000. If the bet went forward, they each got the $5,000 back. The bet went onto the burner for both players as they fell back into their usual routines grinding. Eventually though, with the holidays looming, Elati said he wanted to be in and out of the room by Christmas. There were a number of conditions to this prop bet. Alati would have no access to television, radio, or phone during his time in the bathroom. He would be delivered food from a local restaurant at random time intervals so that he could not keep track of the time. Alati's family would be also able to monitor him through a video feed aside from when Alati was in the shower or in the toilet cubicle. If the father came to a decision that his son needed to leave the bathroom at any time, he would be able to get him out. There were no odds with the bet. It was just a straight up prop bet. When the bet was finalized, Young included a clause that meant Alati had to undergo a cavity search prior to entering the room in order to ensure that he did not smuggle anything illegal inside. Rich Alati also had to supply urine samples throughout the 30-day period in order to make sure he did not test positive for any foreign substances. The bet took place at an undisclosed location at a Las Vegas casino hotel room. Young felt he was lucky because Alati did not ask for any odds. Young felt that the true odds should have been somewhere between 5 and 10 to 1. His hourly throughout the whole thing, if he wins, is only $140. That's a good hourly, but it's not that of a good hourly for this, and he loses a decent amount of time. An 11-page legal contract was drawn up, and each player was required to place their $100,000 in escrow prior to November 21st starting date, and a 3-judge panel was appointed to assure that Alati adhered to all the guidelines laid out in the bet. The very notion that 2 individuals would need to get lawyers involved when booking such a bet hints at some of the possible issues with it, which a number of people immediately raised. A person could suffer lasting mental and physical damage from attempting the crazy feat. Alati, to Young's knowledge, has no experience in extreme isolation. Young himself, as someone who has read up on the effects of isolation, knows how damaging this could be. When asked how he feels about the moral ground he's on, Young confirmed he's thought a lot about it but feels comfortable with the position. On 21st November at 8:05 p.m., Alati walked into the bathroom and darkness fell. He stood for a moment, frozen. Then he laid down and fell asleep. The bathroom mirrors were covered to prevent any reflection, and the doors, though unlocked, were sealed to block out any light. Rich Alati's plan was to live his normal life as if normal was living in darkness for the rest of his life. He brushed his teeth, he then filled up the bathtub, adding Epsom salts and lavender oil to calm his mind, and scoured himself with the sugar and salt scrub. From the bath, he went to the shower in the corner of the room to rinse off. He then headed to the sink, where he used Q-tips on his ears, combed his hair, and lotioned his body. He got dressed and ate. He did yoga and meditated. He had 720 hours and absolutely no distractions, and he'd used that time to improve himself. From the outside, his life was, well, a little bit dull. Rory Young, who has been watching the video stream in earnest, said, "It became a bit boring after a while because it's not like he's doing anything different. The biggest hurdles were mental. As well as the hallucinations, his thoughts started to spiral negatively fast. In isolation, they could lead to despair. When they cropped up, Alati started doing yoga and he refocused on his body, on his pose and stretch. After 10 days, Young was worried that he would lose the bet. Alati was reportedly showing no signs of faltering, and he reportedly used his background in yoga and meditation to help him get through it. On day 15, Young's voice came over the loudspeaker. Alati jumped out of the bed, happy to hear a voice that wasn't his own. Young told Alati that he had been in around for 2 weeks and that he had an offer for him. Alati could leave if he pay out $50,000. Rich Alati laughed in disbelief at Young's proposition. That was a pretty aggressive negotiation tactic by Young. He waited a few more days and came back with another offer. This time, Young offered to pay Alati $25,000 to come out. The money was finally in Rich Alati's favor. He considered the offer for an hour and then declined. On day 20 of the bet, Young made the food delivery to his confined friend, only to find him composed and in good spirits. Having been able to monitor Alati via video for the duration of the challenge, Young realized that the odds were no longer in his favor. He knew it was time to negotiate again. Young came back on the loudspeaker and asked if he had any offers of his own. Alati said he wouldn't come out for less than $75,000, to which Young countered with an offer of $40,000. At the end, the duo settled on $62,400. Alati had been in silence and darkness for 20 days. While we may not know just how close Alati might have been to his breaking point, Young suspects he was able to estimate just how long he had been in the room due to noise generated from a nearby landscaping project. Knowing he had already crossed the halfway point, Rich Alati could have put on his poker face and not only end his torturous challenge early, but walk away richer in the process. If that's the case, it sure paid off. Both participants later said that they were pleased with the results and happy to have engaged in the bet. Alati says he hopes his story serves as a positive for others about overcoming challenges in a world of bad news. He says he has learned to value patience and things we take for granted like chairs, tables, and lamps, or simply being outside. With word of the prop bet making its way through the Las Vegas poker scene at that time, Young heard from somebody else wanting to take on the challenge, but for far more money. That person was Huck Seed. Long story short, Huck Seed wanted to do it for $1 million, but he wanted much tougher conditions. Huck said he wanted to do it with no bed, no food for the first 21 days, and he'd do it for a total of 40 days and just water. Also, he said Young could put on some cockroaches in the bathroom if he'd wished.